Mr. Blunt.
Well, I thank the gentlelady for yielding.
Recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Now, I don't blame my good friend from Virginia for not wanting to talk about the bill today. If I was him, I wouldn't want to talk about it either. I oppose this bill. I oppose this rule. I was not particularly concerned a few days ago when we were sending a message to AIG and the executives at AIG, the high-paid executives there. I think every once in a while the Congress can send a message, and it's a good thing to send that message. This is a company that the taxpayers now own 80% of it. If that's not a definition of bankruptcy, I don't know what it is. And in bankruptcy, it's okay to look at the commitments you made in the past. Now, I'm afraid and by the way, the AIG executives apparently got the message because many of them have turned that bonus money back to the taxpayers who gave it to the company. I thought that was okay to send that message. We were way ahead of any constitutional concern. There was no Senate action. The President wasn't about to sign a bill. We were sending a message. They got the message. I think the problem with that message may be that some of our own members got a different message, which is it's somehow okay for the government to decide that they can decide salaries and how to run companies. The government can barely run the government. The government this week has announced we're going to run the auto industry. The auto industry is in trouble. If I was picking a group of folks to run it, it wouldn't be the government, but the government's there. And now we've got this bill on the floor that suggests somehow that the government can set salaries at what I would see as not only the high level that we tried to take care of last fall in a bill, and apparently the stimulus package that came through had language in it that reversed some of that language and made these bonuses at the higher level possible to be paid. I regret that. I'm glad I didn't vote for that stimulus bill. I'm glad I didn't do anything that enabled that, but I'm not going to vote for this bill today. It is all we can do to run the government. And to try to tell these companies how to pay the people that work for them is not the right thing to do. I mean, as late as last April, the chairman of the Banking Committee in the House that deals with housing, the chairman of the Housing Committee in the Senate, were both saying as late as last April that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac didn't need to be reined in. They were saying as late as last April that, in fact, these agencies needed even more ability to loan more money. If we could be that wrong, that close to the precipice that we went off in the summer and fall, imagine how wrong we could be running a company that doesn't even have any relationship to what the government does every day. This is a bad bill. It's a bad rule. We should not move forward with this rule and not move forward with this bill, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back his time. Gentleman from Colorado.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll use so much time as I might consume, and I'd like to remind my friend